Welcome everybody back to another day in the 31 days of Popcornween, and today is Halloween, so it is the final day in this series of movie reviews and breakdowns and whatever it is that Simper does with these things. So originally I was going to do The Pope's Exorcist with Russell Crowe. Love that movie. Great movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. But then I realized it is the 20th anniversary of the Saw film, the very first Saw film from 2004, directed by James Wan and written and starred in by Leigh Whannell, who you may know now from such films as The Invisible Man and the forthcoming Wolfman movie. So I wanted to take a minute to tell you guys about how this film came to be. How two kids from Australia who didn't have any experience in the industry, so to speak, took a very simple, low-budget concept and made it into something that a lot of people find truly special. The first Saw film, I think, in most people's minds, stands as the best of all of them. We're not going to talk about the sequels in this film, mainly because I don't want to spend a half hour yelling about Darren Lynn Bousman. How the hell did we go to the same school? To be fair, he is way more successful, so maybe I'm just complaining. But regardless, I want to tell you guys about how James Wan and Leigh Whannell got this film made in 2004. Now, the way this film began was back in late 2001, early 2002, when a couple of film students from Australia got together and decided they wanted to make a film. Not really unusual for a couple of film students to do that. That's what most film students do. They're film students. But these two guys had the idea of making something low budget enough that they could fund it themselves, because in Australia, most of the films that are made are funded by the government, and, well, horror, torture porn movies don't really fall under Australia's things they want to make category. So, James Wan and Leigh Whannell started talking about this idea of a film with two guys trapped in a bathroom for the majority of the film. Something that they could fund themselves for maybe $10,000 or $12,000 back in the early 2000s. So, James came up with the idea of the bathroom and the two people stuck in it, and handed it over to Leigh, who was looking more to write and act rather than direct, and he began working on the script. Now, James Wan thought that this was going to take a month, if that. And it ended up taking Leigh Whannell over a year to write the very first draft.
We finally realized that, especially in Australia, to get a film made, we would need to pay for it ourselves. And, you know, most funding for movies in Australia comes from the government. Like, the government gives you a check and goes, go write this film. Here's, you know, $2 million. But they were making films like Muriel's Wedding. It was like, they weren't making Saw. And so we finally realized we're going to have to make a film that we're going to pay for it ourselves. We can probably maybe save up $10,000. What's a story that you could shoot for $10,000? Two people in one room. And we spent a long time trying to come up with I think the smaller the confines, the better the idea has to be. And it took like the best part of a year, like just pitching each other ideas. No, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. And to answer your question, I remember the day that James called and he kind of pitched me this vague idea. He's like, okay, two guys wake up in this bathroom and there's a dead body in the middle. And they don't know how they got in the room, and at the end, the dead body stands up, And it's him that put him there.
When I finally gave him the script, it was the day before Christmas, and he called me. It was like, "This is great, it's much bigger than we can afford." We both realized that it had kind of gone beyond the money we had saved. So then the next predicament was, what do we do now?
And we realized that if you're not going to have any big stars attached to your film, right? If you're not going to have any big special effects, that's what helps sell the film, then the script itself needed to be the star of the film, so to speak. So because of that, we spent a long time trying to work on the screenplay and trying to hone it and craft it as good as we possibly could. And the irony was, because we spent so much time on the screenplay, other people read it and then thought, hey guys, this is actually a pretty decent script here. You should not try just make it with your own money. Let's see if we can get a bit more money and let's see if we can do it properly.
Now, once James and Lee had a script ready that they thought they could shoot themselves, they were able to get a manager off the strength of that script alone. And that manager started looking for investors for them. And what they found soon was that the best investors were going to be in Los Angeles. Imagine that, real shocker that the cinematic mecca of the world was the place to go to get funding for this film. But turns out, absolutely. So their manager got in contact with a couple of producers over in the States who had read the script and really loved it. And they wanted to meet with James and Lee. But that would require James and Lee flying from Australia to Los Angeles. And, well, these guys didn't have a ton of money. They were poor film student graduates, which is what most film student graduates are. Very poor, very hungry. And they really didn't want to fly all the way to Los Angeles just to shake a couple of producers' hands and say, thanks for reading our script. And so they finally determined, okay, we'll go out there because worst case scenario, we'll go get an agent that can help us either sell this script and get us funding for another movie, or we something can happen here. We can make something work. But before they went, they wanted to show the Americans that these two Australian kids actually had some filmmaking chops. So Lee and James got a camera, a couple of friends, some lights, and decided to make a prototype scene for anybody that might be interested in this film. And the scene that they chose was the reverse bear trap scene. And I just remembered I'm wearing my headphones again. There won't be headphones next time you see me.
And then before we know it, we were asked to come to LA to meet up with these guys. And Lee and I thought that, hey, look, we're really broke right now. We don't have any money. But we thought if we're going to go all the way to LA for a handshake, we might as well shoot a scene from the script to show these people that we're not just writers, but we're filmmakers as well.
We just got some friends together, people that we knew, and banged it together really quickly.
We picked one scene from the script and we shot it, and then we took it with us to LA.
I was sitting at an agency waiting for a meeting that was running late, and another agent who's a friend of mine came out and had this sort of glazed look in his eye, looked and saw me sitting there and said, "Do you have 5 minutes?" And I said, "Yeah, what?" He goes, "I just want to show you something." It was the short that our director, James Wan, had shot of a sequence that appears in the movie. And about 2 or 3 minutes into it, my jaw hit the floor. And I said, "What are you doing with this? Don't do anything. Let me go do something." And I ran with the DVD and the script and took it to my partners.
And it was the kind of thing you watch and you liked it so much you wanted to watch it again.
We sat down, James had his book with all the graphics, talking about the script, talking about the project, how he wants to shoot it. Within 5 minutes, Greg and Oren had basically said, okay, well, we're doing it.
The thing we offered James and Lee was that we were going to start in 8 weeks. And no one else can ever guarantee you that. There's always rewrites, there's casting. And we also guaranteed James as director, as someone that came out of a film school, and Lee to be the actor. We basically gave them everything they wanted to start in 8 weeks.
During all this buzz that was going around town about this little Australian torture porn movie that people were really interested in, news and a script of Saw got to star Carrie Elways. Yes, the Princess Bride star himself, who usually is noted for being British and like having comedy chops. So this was a very different take for him. And James Wan met Carrie while at a farmer's market.
And these guys, there was no chance involved in this process. These guys worked their asses off. I never forget the first time I met you both. Was it at the farmer's market, right? Farmer's market. And it just, by the way, it's a great lesson in not to ever judge a book by its cover. I read the script and saw this video, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to meet, like, you know, Marilyn Manson or someone, you know? And these guys show up, and now you can see them. If you've never seen them before, these are the two charming, incredibly funny guys who obviously have handsome, good-looking, and clearly have a
Talented.
fascination with the dark side, yeah? And they sat down, and James, you brought a portfolio with you.
I had a picture book with me with my designs of what I wanted Jigsaw to look like, and the design of the puppet, and the design of the bed, the bathroom, and all of that, and just conceptually what I was going to do with the visual of the film.
Okay, so what few of you may or may not know is that James is an incredible artist. Besides being an incredible filmmaker and artist in that regard, he's an incredible artist himself. He opens up this portfolio, and I start to look at these incredible ink and watercolor drawings that you made of the bathroom set, of the mask, the pig mask, of the puppet. And then he turns the page, and there's a blueprint of Shawnee's mask that she wears, right? This incredible mask. And it's a blueprint. It's really detailed. It's got like screws and nuts and bolts and things. I'm going, wow, James, this is really detailed. And he goes, yeah, it's operational.
I guess Carrie was out grocery shopping, and James Wan just wanted to wedge that meeting in as quickly as he could, because they were running out of time, and they were not going to have a lot of money to do all this. That was the two things they did not have when making this film: time or money. But you know what they did have? Some really good actors that were interested in a really great script, and producers that were willing to front the money themselves. So they found a little warehouse that had been rented out as studio space that had all the amenities they would need for the script to be able to film this thing in one location. That's right, the entire Saw movie is filmed within one factory. Technically 3 buildings connected, but it's all one factory compound that housed every scene and location for this entire movie. And it's called the Lacey Street Studios.
I knew that the only way we were going to be able to make this movie for this budget was to shoot it in 18 days and to be in one place. If we had to have trucks and move around and do all that, there was no way we were ever going to get it done. So I called up Greg and I said, okay, I know how to do this. There's this perfect place. It's this old warehouse, and it's got 3 buildings and some courtyards, and some guys took it over and they rented out as a film facility.
Lacey Street Studios afforded us every single thing we needed, every location, dressing rooms, the works.
Within the space, there's a couple of what they call standing sets. There's like an apartment set and a courtyard set and a police station set. And then there's just like weird shaped rooms and corridors and all this kind of stuff. And the bathroom set was the only set that we built from scratch. Everything else was a modification of something that existed and still does exist.
Luckily for us, you know, it really fitted into the theme of the film and the visual aesthetic of the film, right? That I didn't really need, you know, huge, expensive-looking sets. I basically needed sets that look run down, and this place was perfect for it.
Now, the cast was very integral to the success of this movie, making it work and making it go as quickly as possible. They didn't get rehearsals, even though Carrie Elways really wanted rehearsals, and they didn't really have a whole lot of time to prep. But everybody was putting 100% into this film. And even Tobin Bell, another seasoned actor who joined this film, laid on the floor for those 8 days without moving. And matter of fact, he volunteered for it. They offered to make him a dummy, and he went, "No, just give me a moving pad, I'll be good." That's some dedication to pulling off this film. They even got Danny Glover to be one of the detectives that was hot on Jigsaw's trail during this film. And you can really see the effort these people put in, because when you're watching the movie, you don't realize this is all one location. Every single place in this movie is the same location. It doesn't ever occur to you. And even the driving scenes, they did what was called a poor man's driving scene, where they literally made a room pitch black, threw some lights on a little spin around, and got a guy with a 2x4 under the back axle, and you just pretended like everybody was driving really fast. All of it worked. They used so many different techniques that have been staples in filmmaking for decades. And it all came together in under a month.
Make it half cut. Make it half. James, watch your back.
That's it.
Come up with it.
All right, guys, let's get everything locked up. We're gonna go to picture real quick here.
Cameras ready. Hands down, walk the ladder way. Smoke it up.
Get out of it now. So,
It's great to see this guy. Still good in there.
oh, wow.
Oh, shot that one. Damn.
3, 2, 1.
Ooh, smack.
That's totally, you do that, that rocks.
Super rocks.
And then just watch.
3, 2, 1.
Go.
I remember there was a hacksaw that went flying and nearly hit you in the head one day.
That was close.
Things got a bit dicey.
That was close. Yeah, the scene with the top of the toilet.
The toilet.
Yeah, that
wasn't supposed to break.
That wasn't supposed to break. That just missed. We weren't using a foam rubber toilet top.
We ran out of money, so we were using crew members.
Using
and we were
a porcelain toilet top.
Low budget.
Low
budget,
right.
remember?
Hey, chains, toilet tops.
Was that poo in the toilet?
But did you read the script?
Yeah, right.
And I did confirm with the prop guy that it was Snickers floating in the actual toilet. So
Well,
I asked him, I said, what's in there? He goes, Snickers, I think.
That's what we tell Lee.
I think, yeah.
And then they got to the editing. The editing, literally, back in especially in the early 2000s and even before, they had something called editing bays. Nowadays, you think of editing as, well, I'm gonna get my laptop and I'll open Premiere on my laptop and we'll do some chop. No, it wasn't that. It's 2002. Like, the editing bay had to have like whole other consoles that went to a big beefy computer, and you had the monitors and stuff. It was a whole thing. And the producers put the editing bay right in James and Lee's apartment. So for months, they had an editor and an assistant editor just in their apartment all day, every day, editing, chiseling away.
We had a deadline. We had to try and get it done on time.
We'd work our 12-hour day. I'd send James and Lee back to the apartment. They'd go in. Kevin would be there. And James would spend like a couple more hours working on the film.
It's good in that, you can come straight in from work and then there's an editor looking at the footage and you get to see what you've done that day or the day before.
One of the things I did to help fill in gaps, because when we first cut the film together, we realized there were a lot of holes in the film that we did not have shots for. There'll be shots missing. I'll be like, not because we didn't shoot it, but because we shot it right, and because they were so quickly shot that once you cut it together, it just did not work. But fortunately for us, we had a video camera, which was supposed to be the surveillance camera, and we shot a couple of scenes with the video camera, and boy, was I grateful for that one camera, because that one camera, we did fill in a lot of gaps with that camera.
And when they got a work print made, they sent it off to Sundance. Honestly, not even thinking they were going to get an answer back. Lo and behold, Sundance loved it and said it'd be perfect for our spooky midnight lineup, which put the pressure on more to where they had to finish this film now. And with just 2 days to spare, Saw was polished off with a little bit of tweaking and sleight of hand, I guess you could say, from the crew. And it ended up being a smash success, so much so that it spawned 9 sequels so far. I believe they have an 11th one in the works now.
Post-production, when we were cutting the film, Kevin and I worked 6-7 days a week trying to make this deadline just to get the first rough cut done, hand it over to the Sundance people and see what happens, you know, and we just rushed like mad to get it done. And yeah, and luckily for us, the Sundance people saw it and really liked it and said, guys, this film would be perfect for the Midnight Madness section. And when I heard that news, I was like ecstatic. I was ecstatic for like 2 seconds, and then I go, holy crap, now we have to finish the film on time. And then it became another race then to try and get the film done in time for this actual Sundance Film Festival. And we literally finished it 2 days before we had to screen the film at Sundance. That was definitely the first big festivals I've ever been to, and look, if it has to be any festival, it must well be the Sundance Film Festival.
One of the reasons why I wanted to talk about Saw rather than The Pope's Exorcist, which was my original plan for this video, was that, one, it's the 20th anniversary and no better time than the present, but also it hits on some of the kind of themes that I was inadvertently making with these videos. A lot of the movies that I talked about this month are independent films, small films, films that took people years of their lives to make, and they didn't have anybody pushing them. It was all their inner drive, their own ideas, their own desires, their own vision to put on screen. And Saw definitely qualifies to that type of film. Now, it may not be your cup of tea, I can understand that, but it still holds a very special place in cinematic history. For one, it launched 2 careers of very successful filmmakers now, one of which made $1 billion Aquaman movie, right? That's the weird thing. James Wan's responsible for Aquaman and Saw? What the fuck? But I think one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about these kinds of movies this month is because all it takes is an idea to get started on something like this, to make your own movie. An idea and willpower. It's always going to be an uphill battle. Everything in life is. But for the cinematically, artistically inclined, this is a undertaking that, whether you make $1 million off of it or not, it's artistically rewarding. It's something these people are driven to, and they're not going to let a huge studio system that wants to just drown everything in money and create more problems, they're going to let them push them out of the way. Instead, they found a little niche and a couple of people that believed in them, and they've made a movie franchise that's lasted 20 years. Now, whether or not you like these movies or not, or you think they're trash, schlock, whatever, proof is in the pudding. They keep making these things because people keep watching them. There's something intrinsically relatable and connective to audiences in these films. And it all started here with 2 Australian kids that just wanted to make a movie. Thank you guys so much for watching this. This is probably a little bit of a shorter video, probably a little bit more of clips than usual, but I wanted to give you guys some insight to how a movie like this can just spring up out of nowhere in a really, truly grassroots type of movement. So thank you guys so much for watching this month. We're going to be making a lot more produced videos. We have ideas we're going to be doing soon. So watch out for any kind of announcements we might be making, any kind of changes we might be making to the channel. There's going to be some things happening. Big things, exciting things. So hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and come join us again for another set of movie. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.